part of our family, all of the 8 children, 7 of them could play an instrument. And we had all kind of instruments, and we had a record player that you wound up, and we had a battery radio, and when the battery got low, our daddy run the cotton gin at Long Island. He would take it over there and have it charged. But we always made that we had enough juice to listen to the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday night. And the 3 older girls, they were the Cockman family in the 30s. They would enter fiddlers conventions and win first prize. Our daddy, they didn't like for him to date anybody that would drink, but they said he'd let them crawl in with any kind of alcoholic if they'd take them somewhere to make music. Have I got time to tell them about wash day?
Yeah.
I'll tell you how wash day used to be. We carried water from a spring, and we had a big iron pot. You built a fire under it. We had 1 rain barrel, which helped out, but the rest, we carried 3 big tubs of water and filled it up. You boil the white clothes first, and that helped to heat the first tub that you scrub the clothes with soap up and down on a metal washboard. Then you rinsed them in another tub. Then you put them in bluing water. That made them whiter and the colored clothes brighter. And then you hung them on the line to dry. Then we had 3 flat irons. If it was 90 degrees, you built a fire in your heating stove, put the irons down in it. We had a poker with a hook on it. You took the irons out, had to clean all the black off, and then you switched when it got a little cool and get you another hot one out. And let me tell you about my Lake Norman fishing days. Me and my cousin, we used to fish every day. I had a big, long rubber night crawler with red beads on the end and about 3 hooks. We were under a creek bridge that Duke Parr put rock all around it. And I throwed my line out and it snapped in 2, and I thought, well, I've hooked a rock. My cousin said, is that thing in my nose? I don't know why she asked, because it was strung all the way across like this. And so some men come, they said, we can't get that out. So we went to Dr. Cutchins, it was on Saturday, and he was closed. And at that time, her brother was running the grocery store. She went up there picking up groceries. I said, you don't have time to buy groceries. We've got to find a doctor. So we went to Denver, and he was in. I said, now let's don't laugh when we go in. We opened that door, and we cracked up.
It was a fantastic place, and I don't know how, if you're in this area, or if you go up there on a boat, or if you're on the road, it's up where you go from Catawba County into Iredell County. The beach was down below the bridge that's there, and people would come from Statesville, from Long Island, from all around. On Sunday afternoon, it would be full of people, and it looked like a real beach. There was a... Pardon?
Full of girls, too.
Jerry said it was full of girls. I know you wanted to know that. But anyway, when I guess the flood of 1916 washed the bridge away, there's one of the big concrete pilings was out in the water. So we would go out there and climb up on that. You know, you could lie up on that or get up on it and jump off, or just lie on the beach or whatever. But that was a really good place for all locals to go. I think anybody that was here during that time would attest to that. It was a fun place.
Yeah, but it does have to do with Gene's grandpa and my grandpa and a fellow named Wes Mundy. And Grandpa used to play a fiddle, and they'd go to buck dancing contest. And sometimes they'd have a bottle with them. What Grandpa said they'd do, Gene's grandpa would hold the bottle. And Wes he was doing buck dancing. So they'd wait right before, when Grandpa got out and started playing, right before he started, Uncle Frank would give Wes the bottle and he'd let him have it. And they said he was double jointed and all kind of things. Then he'd go out and cut a flip and hit the floor, you know, dancing. Said he won all kind of contests.
Right across from the trash dump, the building's just about to fall over. But it was Moss Grove. I went there through the 6th grade. And then they consolidated us. We had to walk. I was the closest one black African American everyone said to the school. So for the last 2 years I went to school, I was a janitor. I would walk there in the wintertime by myself. I was 11 and 12. And I would start fires because other children lived up there across I see above Sherrill School, around the curve. And they'd have to walk 2 or 3 miles and they'd be cold. So that's where it was for my first 5, 6 years. And then we were able to ride the bus to Catawba. And I started that at the 7th grade. The building is still there, but it's beginning to fall down. I look at it, I say it should be repaired. Brother Murphy Gable County sold it to them, and they lived in it for a while. But I'll say it was good money. Sister Hartier Farrell was my teacher, and she taught me into being janitor. I've been working all my life. And Catawba County paid me $8 a month to start the fire and to raise the windows and keep the building clean. And when you go down Gregory Road, just look to your right and you'll see it.
Shirley Beatty and her sister Marie did a book through the years with Jane and John Robinson. That's a really spectacularly good local history genealogy. I think if your family was here before the lake backed up, you're probably in that book. It's really, really excellent. They probably have it here in the library.
They sell them or restore. They sell them.
And they have it in Newton at the Historical Association.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, that's
Any other questions?
Robert, got one thing
Okay.
to tell him.
Okay.
Go home. You think we were really backward and didn't have a lot, but we had liquor steals everywhere. Bill Hurtfall sitting right back there. Raise your hand, Billy. All the liquor steals around here, he knew where they were at. I knew where they were at. You could walk out your house in any direction, in no more than 10 minutes, you could find liquor.
Well, Gene, I never knew that.
You probably wasn't a drunk.
I wasn't born in Sherrills Ford. I was born in Catawba County, but at 20 years old, I became a Sherrills Ford woman. So I've been here 80 years. And I have seen a lot of changes, and especially the Saunders store at post office, things like that. Well, I've seen a lot there. But go back to the Sherrill family. My grandma was 5th down the line from Adam Sherrill. And where I live, about a mile and a half or 2 across the road, is an old home place. It's all torn up now. But there's where she was raised and born, and her daddy went into the war, and so she was left with all the children. Her mother died, and she raised them. And it was a hard ordeal on her. But I think the Eases, they bought that land over there. So we used to go over and look at the place where she was born, and the Indians were around then too. And I remember a yellow holly tree which we didn't have at home. It was just so different. But that's about all I can tell about the Sherrill family. But I gave Jane most all my information. She gave it, so I guess.
To try to describe what a unique place Long Island was. They had that mill, and then they had the big dam, and they had these gates. And when they wanted to create electricity for the mill, it was called the race, and it was like a swimming pool. Then the water would go across the water wheel, and they had the gears were down there, and they had a shed to cover the gears. But the kids from Long Island would jump off and dive in that, and it was about 30 feet deep. But then when the gates would go up and the water was going under, they were river rats. they would dive on this side and come out under the dam. You couldn't get me. I couldn't believe that they did that. But another thing, it's hard to describe just how rural we really were. The old Beatty's Ford Road and the roads were dirt roads when we were little. Not gravel road, but dirt roads. You couldn't hardly travel them when it rained. And the Beatty's Ford Road, Uncle Roy had a farm there, but when you were going to Charlotte, that was one of the ways you went to Charlotte, not down 16, but the old Beatty's Ford Road. But between Keiser's Crossroad and 150, when you hit down at the creek, it was a swamp. I mean, it was just a primitive swampland. And so I watched our roads change from dirt road, gravel road, paved road, and now they're back. They've met with my sister and said they're going to widen 150, so our home place is going to be gone. But and if you rode up to 16 now and see all the displacement that's going on, it's going on right now. And what for? Why? So they can get faster from Charlotte to Asheville, to Winston-Salem, to the urban areas. And what we need to do is form this corporation and go buy about 4 mountains, and all us natives move back up there.
Robert wanted me to tell this about his dad, how smart we were. You got to remember now, we were about 18 something in that neighborhood. The lake was coming up. Jerome, he's standing back there in the teal t-shirt, and myself and another young man, we decided to take 3 inner tubes, and we were going to float from Long Island all the way to Mooresville Bridge because the current was going down. We were really smart. We got out of sight of Long Island, and of course the lake was backing up. That's where we stopped. We paddled and we walked, and you could see the briars and things and the sticks coming up out of the water. We punctured holes in the inner tube. And about dark, they were getting ready to send a search party out for us because we hadn't showed up. We were going all the way to 150 Bridge, and it was getting late on Sunday afternoon. We finally made it. So you can see how brilliant we were as young men.
That reminds me when the dam was being constructed and the water was just rising slowly. I remember riding with my husband in the boat up and down the river area. He knew the river real well because he loved to fish on the Catawba River. And I have pictures of us in the boat, and you could see the stumps that were just above the water line. And I was scared to death because I thought we were going to hit a stump any time, but he knew the lake area, so we made it safely. But getting back to my Sherrills, I've got pictures of the old home place, which is now underwater, and my other grandfather's property, which I'm still on now, and thankfully still have some acreage there, but part of it was covered up with Lake Norman. But it's been a good life, so we're thankful.
Being the youngest one on this panel, at 70, I feel obligated to say that the lake meant a lot of exciting things for me. I was in the 9th grade, or going in the 10th, when it completely filled up. And somebody traded a lake lot to my daddy for wiring their house. So we had a lot of fun on that lake. So I can't mainline it too much, but I do feel we have progressed far enough and we should put a stop to it now. Although we're all excited about Publix until we found out how expensive it is. But then the other thing, I promised Gail Drum Hildebrand, I would tell the history of the Slatton Bridge, how it got its name. There was not going to be a bridge. There was never supposed to be a bridge at Slatton Bridge. So the people on the other side were going to be cut off from Catawba County, and you would have to go all the way to Denver to get around by Denver to get to their land. So Janet Jones' mother lived, Weta Sigmund. She was not one to sit down and take it. No. So she went to Raleigh and she had a lot of signatures and she did a lot of talking. And so the bridge was built, but Duke Power said, we've already put down the foundation on this road, we're not going to change it. So they just built a bridge from one side to the other and it happened to be slanted. So it's a slant bridge. Yeah, I didn't either. And only one more thing for you people of Northern extraction. I worked in the library with Madge Beatty. She's a local legend because she was the librarian for at the beginning, really, from the beginning of the library. She never worked here. But anyway, so, I grew up, all of us ladies and children, I think we grew up pretty sheltered. Men didn't cuss around us, and we were generally protected from things like that. Women, children, and preachers, you didn't cuss around them. So the first time, I was a grown woman, the first time I heard a man cuss in my presence. And he walked in the library and he was just talking. And every little bit he'd throw in a cuss word. And I just stared at him and then I realized he was not from around here.
Well, Terrell wasn't called Terrell until after the Civil War. Prior to that, it was called Mountain Creek. And the history of this area is they had a ferry across the dam here going over to the merchants over at 150. So it goes, it's historic because of the store and the commerce and the history of the original settlers coming across on the ferry.
Store was built what year? 1890?
Yeah, and for about 25 years, I think it was the Connor House. He was a congressman for 25 or 30 years, and he was a slave owner, and he
had 77 slaves.
Yeah, but before the Civil War, he wrote in his retirement that the abolitionists are everywhere. Slavery's going to end, and he sold his slaves and invested in the cotton mill, I think probably up at Long Island. And then he lost everything in the Civil War. So, but that's part of the history and historic Terrell.
Wait, I didn't hear the question. These are all the people that are related to Adam Sherrill.
That they know of.
Very nice. Well, the Friends of the Sherrills Ford-Terrell Library would like to thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You can be a member. You can be a member for $10 a year. There's membership forms out on the outside there in the foyer. Thank you to Robert Eads. Thank you to Richard Eller from CBCC, and we'll let you know what becomes of all of this. Again, thank you to the panel. Thank you to Martha Nemechek for the desserts back there. Feel free to socialize and to speak to our panelists, and please get yourself some water and some cookies. It's warm in here. Thank you again for coming.
I would summarize it in one word. It was family.
I remember waking up on a Sunday morning, the mill was shut down. It was real quiet, and the quietness would almost deafen you.
In the summer months, we always went swimming. After the shift changed, they came home and we got our bathing suits and we went to the river.
We had 15 people in one car.
And I had a cousin that worked there. They didn't care. You could go over and visit all day if you wanted to.
I was born in the mill village and lived there until it closed.
Whenever I found out that they were closing the mills and going to be moving, I just cried.
Long Island is a great place to grow up.
You know, we didn't realize at the time how fortunate we were and how special it was.
If I knew that the mill would stay there for my entire life, I'd have probably stayed right there. Because it was that good of a life.